The breakout star and director of Bridesmaids from a few years back hit the summer movie season with a comedy once again. Hello there to everyone watching, and thanks once again for returning to RealScreenReviews.com. I'm movie critic Nick Iacobucci, and I'm happily joined by the lovely Debbie DeAngelo, my returning guest critic. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And our next movie review, is for The Heat. It opened in June of 2013, and it stars Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock, Thomas F. Wilson, and Marlon Wayans. It comes to us from director Paul Feig, who is, as I said, the previous director of Bridesmaids, and a longtime television director, including 30 Rock, The Office, and many other big shows. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my guest critic to tell us the premise of The Heat.
Well, in The Heat, FBI agent Sandra Bullock is teamed up with Boston PD cop Melissa McCarthy to bring down a drug lord. And even though that is the theme of the movie, really the underlying plot is how these two unlikely characters are thrown together, and they have to figure out a way of working together in order to catch the bad guy. And really neither one of them, I would say, are persons, so putting the two of them together, that's where all the magic happens or not, depending on whether you like the movie.
Now, I often try to guess whether or not Debbie liked the movie, and this is one of the few times I really have no idea whether or not you like it. Well, did you like this movie or didn't you like it?
No.
Yeah, not at all, huh?
No. Well, I found redeeming qualities in it. I'm not saying I totally am panning it, but it was, for me, too reminiscent of Bridesmaids, which I did not like. And the only reason is the degree of vulgarity, of the humor, the profanity, and I know
it's relentless. Yeah,
and Melissa McCarthy's character, I think they could have pulled that off without having her F-bomb every other word. And in my notes, one of the things, I don't mean to cut you off, but one of the things, she reminds me of Richard Pryor from back in the day, Eddie Murphy from like Beverly Hills Cop. And I like them as comedians, and I like those movies, but just too much in this one.
Yeah, it was really vulgar. Now, I'm actually going to say that I didn't hate this movie. I thought I was going to hate this movie going in. I didn't like the trailer. Okay, I watched the trailer, I reviewed the trailer, and I reviewed how I thought that it was going to be not a very good movie. I found this to be funny, and I thought her banter worked. I thought that without Melissa McCarthy, you don't even have a movie here. I mean, you put it in. I mean, Sandra Bullock's an Academy Award-winning actress, and I really think you could have had 100 different actresses come in and replace her character, and it really wouldn't have affected this movie at all.
I did think they had chemistry. I liked their chemistry. I thought that was good.
And I did appreciate some of McCarthy's vulgar humor. I did think it, and I can take a lot. It didn't really offend me. I just thought it just got old after so long.
Right.
I think when I think back to, and I think a good example is Beverly Hills Cop, because he was really vulgar. He was probably one of the most trashed mouth people in the
for that time
in the 1980s. And I'll tell you what, though, they surrounded that movie with a strong story, a good mystery, and some action. This was just like one.
How many times can we get away with saying it is the impression I got as I was watching it. So to me, it totally took away from the more admirable aspects of the movie.
What about the, wasn't there the scene in the bar or whatever? There's that. There was some other parts I was really like taken aback. I didn't.
You know what? Do you remember the scene in Bridesmaids where all the bridesmaids get diarrhea and they're going to the bathroom any place they can find, a sink, a pot, a pan, whatever? It brought that back in such vivid clarity for me, and I didn't really like it the first time. It was hard for me to even enjoy some of the parts of the movie.
Yeah, I'll say, actually, seeing as I was going into this movie and I really thought that I was going to hate it, I was actually surprised that I didn't despise it. I thought it was actually funny. I gave Bridesmaids actually a much better review than you did. But I didn't think Bridesmaids was anywhere near as vulgar as this movie, and I thought it had a lot more heart than this film did.
And I don't like that one either. I should have looked to see how many stars I gave Bridesmaids. Or hearts. But they're good, two great actresses, two very comedic, physical actresses. I just didn't.
Well, I think I liked this movie actually more than you. Like I said, I didn't hate it. How many hearts are you going to give this?
You know what? I feel like I'm going to be generous here and give it 2.
Really, I think I did like it more than you. I was actually torn between 2.5 and 3, and I think I'm going to give it the same thing that I gave Bridesmaids, which is 3 stars.
3?
But I think that the jokes with McCarthy worked enough for me to endorse the movie and say that I laughed.
3 is pretty strong.
And I enjoyed seeing Thomas F. Wilson, who played Biff from the Back to the Future movies, who I haven't seen in a movie, I don't think, in like 20 years. He shows up as their police captain, and it's funny because he looks like older Biff in the Back to the Future films. When they make him up to be like his dad's age, that's what he looks like now, which is actually kind of humorous.
Was this rated R?
This is as R can be.
But you know what? It says something about a movie when this is all we can talk about.
Yeah, it's just how vulgar it was.
Yeah.
And it was just one vulgar scene after the next.
I feel like that takes away from the movie. That doesn't add to the movie or the character of it. I think it detracts from it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not easily offended, but this was just a little too over the top for me.
And I've often said, too, I think that sometimes when there's this many F-bombs and there's this many profane jokes, then you just couldn't write anything smarter.
Right.
You couldn't put better sentences together or jokes that were worth telling. And I'm not saying that it didn't work in this movie, because I think this movie did what it was trying to do.
Oh, the audience thought it was hilarious
Yeah.
when I went to see it, but again, I just wonder if you just go in and you don't mind that kind of humor, then you're going to have a good time in this movie.
But it's easily offensive. This movie is easily offensive to people. Like I said, be forewarned. There's as many F-bombs in this as there is in Platoon, and I didn't think that was at all possible.
And you just get sick of it, I guess. You're just waiting for something a little bit more with a little bit more substance, and when you fill the script with all the profanity and just the vulgarities of it, it leaves no room for anything of substance.
I agree. I'm still going to say, though, that I laughed enough, and compared to some of the crap that I've seen this summer,
I can't get you to come down to a 2.5.
No, I actually,
3.
because I remember, well, as I read my notes, I wrote specifically, and I'm like, I laughed enough. I definitely laughed enough that I would definitely recommend it. And I think I said the same thing when it came to Bridesmaids. But once again, I will end my review by saying Bridesmaids had a lot more of a strong story, and it had a lot more heart than this film. This one was like one side joke after the next or whatever.
Well, I give it 2.
Yeah, you give it. She's giving it a generous 2. I'm going to give it even a more generous 3. And Debbie, thank you so much for being here.
I hope I enjoyed the next movie we review a lot more than the past couple.
Is there something that's coming up that you want to review? I wanted to just sit in for The Butler.
Oh, okay.
That's the one about the man that's the butler at the White House for like 8 presidential terms or something like that. I don't know.
They can't get any worse than the last few I've seen, so whatever.
Well, until then, remember, people, we're not always right, but only when it comes to the movies. And thank you for your attention.